Hey everybody, welcome and thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. I'm here today with another, what do we call them, maybe a bonus episode. I love going on other people's shows because sometimes it helps me actually figure out what I think about stuff. And in this case, I went on a podcast called Sex for Couples, hosted by Heather Shannon, and we talked for a while about sex. And, she asked me a lot of questions that helped me kind of think out loud about what I think about this thing. I'm not a sex therapist, but I deal with it plenty in my office. This one is me basically, I think, rolling out my greatest hits. So all my kind of go-to stories and metaphors and perspectives are loaded into this one conversation. So I'm glad to have it in one place. I'm glad to share it with you. If you are interested in sex for couples, you ought to check out Heather's podcast. It's called Sex for Couples with Heather Shannon. She was a delight to talk to. This is a very cool conversation. Stick around.
Hello, my friends. We are here with an amazing guest, Zach Brittle, today. So welcome, Zach.
Hi, Heather Shannon. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Okay, so what are some of the common things you're seeing? So it sounds like you specialize really in just working with couples who are struggling.
Yeah, so I'm in private practice here in Seattle, and my practice is almost exclusively couples. I have a few individuals here, but they're coming in all over the map, right? Like, I always say about this room, I'm in my office today, that this room is, different depending on kind of who's in it. Sometimes it's a courtroom, sometimes it's a classroom, sometimes it's a laboratory or a playground. It really, sometimes it's a yoga studio. Sometimes it's a bedroom. I'm not strictly in people's bedrooms, but it's amazing the stories that people feel the freedom to tell their therapist, without shame or embarrassment. And
which is great.
I mean, I was just thinking the other day about stuff that people tell me in here that if they told me in polite conversation, I don't know if I would know what to do with it. I would be like, did you just literally say that out loud? And you're at this,
do you
this
ever,
wedding
sometimes
reception?
I feel like because of the work I do, I'm like broken for polite conversation. Do you ever feel that way?
I do. I mean, the thing for me right now is we're going to all these weddings. We're in the kind of like the wedding season, but these weddings are all of our friends' kids.
Okay.
So like children who came up with our kids, whose diapers we may have changed, who, we've babysat over the weekend or whatever, they're getting married and they're making all these like big pronouncements about love and commitment and God bless them. I hope that it works out for sure. But it's, 40 years later, I've been married almost 30 years. It's sort of like, oh my gosh, we were so dumb. We're so, we did not have any idea what we were doing,
I think about that with marriage vows sometimes. I'm like, they do seem very unrealistic sometimes. I'm like, what would honest marriage vows really be,
Well, I mean, you'd have to add something like for better or for worse, even though I have no idea what that means. For richer, for poorer, even though we don't have any concept of what money is on the planet right now. Right. And sickness and in health, which definitely includes when you get sick, but might not include your ADHD diagnosis. What is, you'd have to kind of caveat everything because there's a lot more that we don't know than we do. And people say yes. Yeah. And they don't know what they're saying yes to. And so, sometimes you need to come into a room like mine, a therapy office, and realize that maybe I'm not so confident in my decision to say yes. But then if you face that and then you say yes again, that actually is really powerful. It's actually really, really meaningful. And so sex is this thing that people say yes to when it's fun and athletic and unencumbered. And it's a little bit like a job interview. You're like, hey, I'm going to see if I can keep doing this. Maybe I can get the job. The first thing anybody does when they get their job is they loosen their tie, right? They go, okay, I don't have to work so hard
just
anymore.
try a little less now.
Which is what happens, right? So that's the observation I have on that scene right now.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point about sex specifically, because so often people will come in and they're kind of like, well, sex was great when we first got together. I'm like, no, but it kind of doesn't count because you've got all these extra hormones. You're kind of in this, like limerence phase or whatever. Yeah. And then, you're also putting your best foot forward. And then sometimes we get a little bit complacent later on down the road.
Well, the thing that you have early on is that you know what it's for. It's for fun. It's for it's for getting the job. It's for, reassurance and connection. And then, we get married and we're kind of, again, we don't quite need to have it all the time or have it in the same kind of way. At least this is the standard path. So, eventually we start deciding that maybe we want to have kids. So now sex is for something else. Sex is for pregnancy, and it's, a specific time and specific positions. And, people, particularly people who are having a hard time getting sex, like it really changes. Like getting pregnant. It really changes because it's no longer fun at all. It's a task, it's a thing. And then maybe we're done having kids, and now what is it for? Like, what's it for? And I think that's often what's at the heart of it for people, is that they haven't figured out, what purpose this is meant to serve. And so, because they already have the job and they already have the kids. So, and now I have a body that it's not quite as athletic as it used to be. And it gets tired at 8 o'clock. And, so, so it's a weird thing.
It is kind of
to elevate so highly as part of the process of being in love with someone, and then to have it often become such a minor thing is really challenging psychologically for people.
Yeah. I think you're right there. And I know a lot of people feel like, at least the people I'm talking to, they're feeling like, kind of like, I know I should, or I know it's important for the relationship. And that was something I kind of fell into in a long-term relationship too, where it was like, I feel like I should check this box, because if I don't, it's like a really bad sign. But then obviously that can lead to issues too, where you're, and we were talking before I hit record about like kind of trying too hard and maybe not trying in a way that's really going to be impactful. So I'm curious what you see with that.
Well, trying too hard to what?
Great question.
Right? I mean, you always have to fill in. I think, when people come in here or they listen to, like, I think the value of listening to a podcast, particularly if you listen to something consistently, is you get sort of an expanded vocabulary. And you learn that phrases need more. Like it's, you talked about this idea of I should do this, but should it's a variable thing. Like should in order to what? In order to feel closer, in order to get pregnant, in order to obey my husband. Those are all different executions of should, and they mean different things. So, I think we have to finish the phrase, but this idea of, in order to what really becomes primary, I think, when you're trying to change the nature of what sex is in your relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want it to be? Yeah. So they come in here and, if the goal is spontaneous P and V intercourse where you both orgasm at the exact same time, that's lovely. And it would be really cool, but it's kind of a, it's sort of a Hail Mary often. It's a pretty rare thing unless you practice. And so now practice what? I go, oh, okay. Now we're talking, now we can like start to talk about like what counts as this thing that you want to work on. Because if you're just working on amazing, mutually edifying sex as the outcome, there's a lot of pieces that go in place before that I think people skip over.
Okay. Say more about that. What are the things people are skipping?
Well, I mean, part of what they're skipping is just talking about it. What is this for?
That's so fascinating. Yeah. It's like people will take all their clothes off and put their parts inside each other, and then they don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Part of it is talking about it. My wife and I had we were at one of these weddings this last weekend, and we had a day off beforehand. We just floated down the river, just got in some inner tubes and floated down the river for 3 hours. And we talked about sex, most of that time, fully clothed, unable to execute, thinking, trying to dodge rapids and ducks and bushes. But, we had a whole conversation, a sexually intimate conversation without any touching at all, And I've, what I'll say to people is I think intimacy itself is pretty broad and kind of multifaceted and includes physical intimacy, which is about proximity. It's about being just in each other's orbit. And it includes sexual intimacy, which is, of course, it's its thing. But I think people need to have, in terms of steps they're skipping, people need to have more physical intimacy that's not sexual and more sexual intimacy that's not physical. Like Rebecca and I did on the river, like where we just,
I like that.
We had sexual intimacy, but we didn't touch each other. But we are a lot smarter and we're a lot more aligned in our understanding and our
I also love that you're
dreams,
doing that 30 years into your marriage. Like, I think that's important.
To, right? Because if you don't, what are you talking about? You're talking about the kids,
right?
Talking about whether or not, have enough suntan lotion on, talking about whether or not, we think this couple's going to make it. Did I say this out loud already? I can't remember, but we're in this era of going to our friends' kids' weddings.
Yes.
I said that. I said that right? It's wild to see these children that you literally raised, making these promises that they have no idea about. And whether that's as a layperson or even as a couples therapist, I'm sort of like, okay.
What do you think people should know before getting married?
I don't know, man. I think functionally we have to appreciate that any long-term marriage is probably 4 or 5 different marriages. Like the first one is the one that is run by limerence, the one you're describing. And it is the one that you take pictures of, and it is the one that you feel really good about, and it is the one that you hope lasts forever. But, we've been married almost 30 years, and I think we've been married 4 or 5 times,
that's
different phases, different eras. And I don't think there's no reason to have an understanding of that. There's no reason to appreciate that. Like,
right.
We don't learn things until we learn them. So even if people are listening to this podcast and they think that, oh, that's a really thing that, I should figure that out. You're not going to figure that out. Like, you're going to
just accept you don't know it.
You're just going to accept that you have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
But I think, if I were giving a piece of hyper practical advice to people who are about to get married, I would say have a couples therapist, like the same way that you have a dentist or a financial advisor or a mechanic, and plan to visit with that person at a minimum about every 3 years for 6 weeks or so to help you level up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea.
Hyper practical piece of advice.
Yeah.
I would say find somebody that you can count on to speak into your life. Maybe it's not a therapist. Maybe it's your pastor or your parent or your whatever, but have a regular practice of, checking in and pivoting into the next thing. And this isn't strictly, that number 3 is not I didn't make that up. That's kind of it's kind of an origin of the species number. Like when tribes were wandering around trying to figure out how to make, humans work, what would happen is she would ovulate and she'd have sex with like 5 or 6 guys, and then a baby would come out and it would look like this guy over here, Tom. Tom would raise that baby for about 3 years until the baby was like kind of ready to participate. And then she would ovulate again and she'd have sex with 5 or 6 guys, and the baby might come out looking like Tom, but it might come out looking like, Steve or something. And so then Steve was hanging out. So these units were these like kind of 3-year units really until people stopped wandering around. Like once they stopped wandering around, Tom would get a piece of land and he would hook up with Betty, and Tom and Betty would make, a family that would then steward that land. But even that wasn't love. That was, how are we going to make this thing work?
Right.
And so I think, that number 3 has followed anthropology around since then. Cause you meet somebody and about 3 years later you get married. About 3 years later you have a kid. About 3 years later you have another kid. And then about 3 years later you buy a house, and about 18 years later your kids start leaving. And about, there's this whole
interesting
sort of cycle of kind of ebb and flow of, relational capacity that needs to be revisited. And that probably includes your sex life.
It should. I think what I see though, it's interesting what you said about, sex usually starts out strong and it's fun and it's connective. And I think people tend to assume that it's going to stay that way. And maybe there's someone out there where it does and there's like no hiccups, but I don't know that person. but yeah, people's bodies change. What was that?
They're not listening to your podcast.
They're probably not. No, they're definitely not listening.
They don't need any help. They're not asking for help.
They're just like blissfully ignorant of problems.
Yeah.
But I think for the, other 99.9% of people, it's like, oh, we didn't know some things about ourselves sexually going into this, or we didn't think that there's certain things that were important to communicate up front, or we just figured we let our bodies do the talking and,
Well, sure.
Try
and then
and
if you're a woman and you're letting your body do the talking, your body is a wild, unpredictable, adaptive thing that isn't at 25 is not the same at 25 and 35 or 45 and 55. It's not the same before and after children. So this idea that like, oh, sex was X for me as a woman in my body, or rather, let me say I'm a man. I'm a man, and but this is the expectation that I had.
Right. Yes.
Right? Like this is who I married. I didn't marry the person who went through perimenopause. Well, that's why about every 3 years you got to like kind of reset and figure out if there's
checking in.
Yeah. If there's a
like a relationship is not this static fixed thing. It's alive.
And it's not strictly an evolutionary thing. Like, meaning like it doesn't just run its own course. Like you have to prune it and steward it and, give up some stuff and add some new stuff as you go,
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So let's get into some of the patterns that you think, what do people think they need to work on when it comes to sex? Like when they're trying so hard and they're like, we're going to address this. We're going to fix this. And what do they actually need to work on?
The easy one is they think they need to work on more.
Yeah. Yes. Often.
More frequency. I mean, that's usually the thing where you need to have it more frequency, but I think they need to work on, are they good at it?
Yeah.
Like, is there a skill that they can learn or add to their, I have a client who's in the pornography industry and she's, she's a sex haver in the same way that like NFL players are football players. Like they're good at football. She is good at sex. And it's because she has a lot of practice and she's tried things out and she's learned how to do things and she's needed to be good at it in order to keep a job. And, but she really helped me frame, and this is, I'll give her credit for this. She's really helped me frame the idea that it is a skill. It is a skill that you can be good at or bad at, and that you can also get better at. And
that's the important part.
So when people talk about, working harder, or they come in and the target is more, I'm like, how about smarter or better? And again, that might include conversation. It might include, doing a little research. I don't actually know. It'd be silly if you don't know who Emily Nagoski is, but I love her work and the way that she thinks about educating people in this space. So it might just mean education. And then it might mean trying some stuff out. I'm going to try out this new oral sex technique and see what you think. And then we debrief it later. And I don't think people have given themselves permission to think about sex in that way because it's private and it's sacred and it's, it's a little bit awkward, but,
people hate the awkwardness. I'm like, I think you should. I like to call it like a sex lab or a kissing lab. It's like, let's just kind of lower the stakes and try some things and see what lands,
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. I forget whose idea this is, not mine, but it's the idea that like, what if you thought about sex like any other hobby that you decided to take on, like if you were going to learn to play tennis, there are things that you would do. You would buy tennis gear. You would probably watch some tennis on TV. You might take some lessons. You would go to tennis court and you would go there for the purpose of working on your backhand, not strictly always go there to work on playing a set to win. Right. Like there are things that you would do
analogy.
with your hobby that people don't think about when it comes to sex. In part because, I imagine a lot of people heard me say, what if sex was a hobby? And they went, oh, what do you mean? No, it's a vow or something, but if it's a thing that you want to get better at, you got to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't think people spend a lot of time thinking in those terms because what they want is the result. They want to win Wimbledon.
Right.
You know, they don't want to just have fun.
And there's kind of this expectation I've noticed also where people just feel like they should just know. I'm like, well, how? How would you magically know? Porn is not educational. That's entertainment. You know, you're not really seeing actual people like having sex. Your parents certainly didn't tell you. Church didn't tell you. School didn't tell you. So like, why should you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again,
it makes no sense to me. Yeah. We got to stop doing that to ourselves.
Passed down. And, you know, I think, you know, part of why conversations like the ones you're having on a regular basis are so valuable is just to demystify it. Take out the kind of the crazy baggage that's always attached to it. And say, maybe it's simpler, you know?
Right. Just try something. And I mean, I think what you said about your client who works in pornography, like I also just interviewed a former dominatrix, and what I'm learning is like, they keep trying things and then they communicate about it. Like even the pros don't just magically know and aren't just like magically gifted with some sort of like divine sex skills, you know, like they work at it.
In high end, like kind of where like the money is in porn. I know there's that whole industry is racked with crazy town, but like particularly in kind of the regulated side, there are very specific agreements on the front end. Like, what do you like? What don't you like?
Yes.
Is this okay? Is this not okay? How do you want, you know, do you want, you know, and they have agreements before they even get into the, into the scene, that levels the expectation, you know, because if you're not clear, it's really easy to harm somebody. Or it's really easy to not give them pleasure.
Right. Sure.
You know, never mind harm. Like,
right.
Sometimes you're just not even learning how to pleasure someone.
Well, and I think especially like you were saying, I've seen female clients where once the quality of the sex improves and they do get good at it, whatever that means for them, the frequency often winds up increasing.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
So I like that.
Here's a question that Emily asked that I love, which is this idea of like, this is when you don't want sex, what don't you want?
That's a great question.
Right?
Yes.
I don't want to be bored. I don't want a physical pain. I don't want to sweat.
Right.
I don't want my kids to hear. I don't want, like, cause there's a lot of information in that question. Because if the assumption is when they don't want sex, they don't want you.
Right.
Then you get, again, here comes all this crazy baggage that may not actually be real.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the main patterns that I'm seeing is that people take it really personally. You know, like if a guy's not getting an erection and his partner's a female, you know, she might be like, oh, it's because I'm not attractive anymore. Oh, he doesn't, you know, and I'm like, often that's like, I think that's maybe 5, maybe 10% of the cases is it actually lack of attraction. I would say 90% plus it's something else.
Yeah. But it also is like, okay, so you can't get an erection, but I bet your tongue still works.
Thank you. Yes.
You know, I bet I bet you could still make out for a little while. I bet you could still, you know, we could still do something a little less sexual, but maybe it's a massage with some oil or something. Like if sex is for, let's just call it his erection, then you've eliminated 90% of what is available as a sexual activity, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of people do view it that way. Then I think it limits their creativity. So yeah, I think it's important to keep trying new things, you know?
Well, I mean, you know, I come back to these two questions that I'm often starting this conversation with clients. One is, what's it for? Which we've already talked about a little bit. And then the other one is, what counts? What counts as sex?
That's interesting.
Sexual intimacy. Does it count if we like make out in the shower? Does it count if we go to a store and whack each other with dildos? Does it count if only one of us comes?
Right.
Does it count if we don't have intercourse in the process of this sexual activity that or this sexual moment that we've initiated right now?
Right.
Like, does all that count? Because if it doesn't count, then so the only thing that counts is like the home run, you know?
Right.
That's hard to do. I don't want to do that.
It's a narrow definition. And then we're also erasing
a lot of failure.
2 women having sex and,
sure,
you know, we're erasing oral sex as sex. There's just, it gets kind of goofy.
Well, and you've introduced a lot of ways to fail.
Right.
You know, versus lots of ways to succeed.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. Yeah. What if it's like there's all these paths and it's like a choose your own adventure instead of you have to get 100% on the test in this one particular way with the time limit,
Yeah. The most successful couple I have in my practice that has like successfully moved from sex that was unsatisfying to sex that is satisfying is we talked about it for a long time. They finally negotiated their deal, which they now keep religiously. They have sex twice a week. They have sex on Wednesday night. They have sex on Wednesday night and Saturday morning.
Okay.
And Wednesday night is for him.
Okay.
And so whatever he wants, he gets on Wednesday night. And so if that's like try a new position or play with a toy or just get a blowjob and go to sleep, like that's what he gets. Saturday morning is for her.
Okay.
Saturday morning, she gets whatever she wants. If she wants a bubble bath, if she wants a long, tender lovemaking session, that's what she gets. That's what she gets. And they have stuck to that, and it has driven their sense. It's removed all this questions about rejection and initiation. It's removed all the questions about, what are we doing here? It's removed all their questions about, preference. Like
isn't that fascinating?
She's like, I have no preferences tonight. Like my preference is for you to feel good and get what you want out of this interaction. And, they're attuned to each other enough that it's not like either one of them is behaving selfishly. I mean, they're a little bit, there's a little bit of selfishness baked in, but they're not like, I love sex on Wednesday and I hate sex on Saturday.
Right.
They love that they don't have to navigate through a lot of the questions.
Yeah.
That some people are navigating even unconsciously. And they're really clear about what's it for and what counts.
Yeah, I love that. I have not really thought about the idea of like decision fatigue around sex, but now that you're saying it, I have a lot of clients who are just overthinkers about like, should I initiate? Well, how should I initiate? And then like, is my partner going to think that's weird? Am I misreading the cues? Is now a bad time? Am I going to be bothering them? There can be a lot of like analysis and overthinking involved at times.
Well, and even just the idea, like I want it to be spontaneous. I'm like, great. That would be great if it was spontaneous. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Is it?
Problem with that? Yeah.
No, it's not. Okay. Is there anything else in your life that's spontaneous? Do you spontaneously have meals? Do you spontaneously go to the gym?
Yeah.
Do you spontaneously go to sleep? No, we plan everything that we love, that we care about, So, if sex is a priority for you, then sure. Could it be spontaneous? Right. That'd be great. But if it's not, then you got to make it a priority with your time.
Exactly. And that might change over the years too, right? Like when you don't have kids and your jobs aren't overly demanding and you're together a lot and, you have high libidos.
You're just floating down the river and you're not quite sure what you're going to do with the rest of your weekend.
Right.
Like, you got to talk about it,
Yeah, exactly. But it's like when you're parents and you have 3 kids and you're taking them in different camps and you're just like, I don't have a minute to myself. It's like, you're probably going to have to schedule it. Or at least time for intimacy, whatever that means,
Well, who's the other one that I talked to? I don't know if you know Susan Bratton's name, but she came on.
She's been on this show 3 times.
Yeah. Well, I love her notion of, she doesn't encourage people to schedule sex. She encourages them to schedule erotic play dates.
I like that too. Yes.
So it's like, it's not, okay, here we are. And I hope I can get hard. And I hope that you're wet enough and that we can pull this off. It's more like, all right, here we are. And what are we going to play? What do you want to play? You want to play technique? You want to play, research? You want to play, let's watch a movie? What do you want to play in this erotic space that we've made for each other? And I think that's really a critical piece of the puzzle,
Yeah. I like that idea too. Cause so much, I'm constantly talking about how pressure like kills sex. And so if it's like must perform, that's not going to be fun. But if it's like, hey, we get to do whatever we feel like doing and communicate what we're in the mood for, then it becomes something to look forward to.
Learn something new, have a different kind of experience. Like that can all be really, really clever.
I know. I think so too. Okay. So we know that people tend to focus on frequency. What are some other things you think people tend to focus on that maybe is not the real thing they need to be focusing on?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think again, when sex is outcome based, whether that outcome is his erection or her orgasm or anything in between, then you're sort of outsourcing the possibility that it can be good. you know, versus can it be good without an outcome? So there's more, but then there's also like what has to happen in order for us to call it good. And I think the broader that definition is, the better. And, you know, I keep name dropping, but I don't know if you know Tina Schermer Sellers. Do you know Tina Schermer Sellers? She's
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, she's kind of in the more kind of on the sort of recovering sexuality from evangelical purity culture kind of side of the equation. But she, you know, her argument ultimately is that sex is for pleasure and connection. And when it's, and those are different kinds of outcomes, right? And so when you can shift your mindset into like, nope, it's for pleasure and connection, then again, the world kind of opens up a lot and you don't have to kind of release the pressure off of whatever outcome you've highlighted.
That makes sense. It's like, I think what you're saying is sort of like, what is our North Star, you know, when it comes to sex? Like what, or how are we aiming ourselves? And if it's pleasure and connection, then it's like, someone might be having, and I've had many people tell me this, the best sex that they remember is one where maybe they didn't orgasm.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not always about that outcome. It's really about what was unique about it. Did you feel really seen and heard? Did you do something you don't normally get to do? Was the setting really exciting and erotic, you know?
Yeah. And I think if I had maybe one other thing, and it's back to this idea of play date, it's this idea that I don't know anybody who loves to work. Like, and I'm trying to set up the idea that work, who wants to work? Like play.
Right.
Let's not work harder. Let's play. And even work, you know, when it's edifying, there's a result that you can see, or I think about working out at the gym and there's a pain that you feel. But when people come in here and they want to work on their sex life, I'm like, how about we just play instead? Like, why don't we shift the verb?
I think that's hard for women, especially I've seen, to kind of get out of this idea that, you know, oh, this is really important to my husband or whatever, you know, and I need to, you know, I know that he's just more energized when he has sex. And like, I know it's really, he feels rejected and hurt and pouty and whatever if he doesn't. Yeah. And then even if he's like, I know I need to manage my own feelings, so I don't want you to feel like that. Sometimes she'll still feel like, you know,
which is why, again, I think she has to have a real clarity, or he and they need to have clarity about when they don't want sex, what don't they want? And if what they don't want is work or obligation, then you need to negotiate that this is actually play and an opportunity. And then maybe the dynamic shifts a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I love that. So tell us a little bit more about, you know, your work and who you work with and how people can connect with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Seattle. Most of my private practice is in person, so I see a lot of clients here, but I do have my own show. It's called Marriage Therapy Radio. The format of that show is I interview couples. So when Susan came on, and Emily, actually, they both came on with their partners, and we had a whole conversation about like kind of how they do it, how they make their relationship work behind the scenes a little bit. So that was cool. And, you know, but I like the format of that show in part because, you know, in my private practice and in my life, I get to talk to a lot of couples about how they make it work. I mean, I've talked to thousands, you know, and
that's so cool.
Most people don't do that. Most people talk to their parents, maybe their in-laws, maybe their friends, somebody they saw on TV. That's their whole context for what makes a relationship work. And so I'm just trying to provide more context and have like different folks or different experiences kind of, so you can go, oh, that's a new way of thinking about it. I never thought about it like that before. So
that's so cool. What have you learned that you've applied to your marriage from interviewing so many couples and experts?
I can't even begin to roll them out. Like, I feel so grateful. I think I'm a guy who would definitely have been divorced a couple times from Rebecca. If I didn't have if I was just clocking in and out like a average Joe in some other job at Microsoft or the bakery or whatever, and I wasn't constantly filtering through skills and context and practice, and you know, I think I would have been in big trouble. I didn't have enough of them on my own. So, you know, I have this amazing benefit of hearing from different people, and my panic meter isn't very high. I don't stress out about conflict at my house. Like,
cool.
I guess maybe I have two little kind of hip pocket things that I tell most people. And number one is, in my family, the thing that sustains us, and I have 2 daughters and they're both adulting, is that we're really good at repair.
Nice.
So like, we're all hotheads. We argue quite a bit. Any one of us could tee off at anybody else for any reason.
Okay.
And so we never tried to take that away from us. Like we're okay. We're passionate people.
Yeah.
But we did prioritize repair.
Cool.
So like for me, it's like everybody in my family will say that we're really good at repair.
That's awesome.
You know? But when I'm on an airplane and people ask me like you just did, like, what's the main thing? What's the secret, or what have I learned? Functionally, a happy marriage for me comes down to 2 things, and really only 2 things. Number 1 is you've got to be a grown up. You got to have 2 grown-ups in the equation. Like you got to have 2 functional adults, sober adults, wise adults, whatever you is, who are, you know, taking accountability and being responsible enough to come to the relationship in that skin. If your trauma is running the show, if your addiction's running the show, if you're being run by dopamine or by adrenaline or cortisol, it's just not going to work. So you got to do that work. That's number 1. And then the second thing is, do more things that your partner likes and fewer things that your partner doesn't like.
It seems so easy when you say it that way.
That's it. That is the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, but adults,
2
adults can negotiate that. 2 adults can say, hey, I don't like that. Or, hey, I do like that. And in fact, it's actually part of the skill of being a good lover. Like being a good lover is when your partner says, faster, right there. Oh, that feels, you go faster and you stay right there.
Yes, listening.
And when they say, ouch, you don't say, well, I wasn't trying to hurt you, but I didn't mean to. And that always worked. You know, you go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. And you stop doing the thing that makes them say, ouch. You know, in bed, that seems intuitive in bed, because we don't want to physically, like we're bought into the idea of pleasure and pain, and we want more pleasure and less pain. You know, your dominatrix accepted perhaps, but like, but we don't think about that quite as much on the emotional side, like where our job is really just emotionally, practically, you know, spiritually, intellectually, do more things that your partner likes and do fewer things that your partner doesn't like. That's being a good lover.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Zach. This has been a fun convo and a couple good little nuggets for myself as well.
Okay. Thanks to Heather Shannon for having me on the show. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I'm going to bring you more of these, I think, where I get to go on other people's shows and then bring them back to you here at Marriage Therapy Radio in case you missed them. There is something good for me about exercising my conversational muscles as a question answerer more than, say, a question asker. That said, I got a ton of cool interviews lined up, at least 2 that I'm especially excited about because I sort of discovered them in the wild and reached out and said, hey, do you think it would be cool if you came and talked to me? And they said yes. So I'm glad to share those with you here coming up. And yeah, getting real excited about the book. Since I'm publishing more information about that, the writing process in particular, over at Substack. It's called StuffIWrite.com. But I want to thank you again for staying engaged with Marriage Therapy Radio. Please do leave us a review, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, or both. That sounds fine. And you can follow us on the Instagram. That's always fun. I'll thank you again for being part of our community and for the time and attention you're putting into making your relationship better today than it was yesterday.